in 2009. We might get them in 2023. You proposed last year a loss and damage fund. It was discussed 2 weeks ago. We are nowhere near any agreement on this. And it's the same on biodiversity. It's the same for high sea. It's the same everywhere. The tensions basically percolates and the priorities don't add up. If I may quote, a francophone, she's Belgian actually, author, she lived in the US, her name is Marguerite Yourcenar. She was the first lady to join the French Academy after almost 400 years of existence. And she wrote a book called The Memoirs of Adrian. Adrian was a Roman emperor at the peak of the Roman Empire, actually 2nd century. And he's reflecting on power and the fall of Rome. And it's Margaret Yourcenar that writes, but in Adrian's mind. And she said, I know that the fall of Rome will come. I know that, this will happen. How can I delay this moment? How can I delay the moment where the barbarians outside and the slaves inside will rush onto a world that we expect them to respect from far or to serve from below? And then he adds, however, I would like them to love Rome. If you change Rome with a number of concepts that we're using today, you see this is the tensions. How do we keep the world together? Outside, inside. And this is really also the kind of donut economy type of approach. The only real change we've done in the past few years, and it's far from purpose, is corporate social responsibility, ESG, environmental, social and governance issue. We have not really touched the risk-return fundamentals put together in 1950s in the US. We need to address our operating system. We need to pass beyond the two tragedies that are paralyzing us. The first is the tragedy of the horizon, described by Mark Carney in a famous speech in 2015 ahead of COP21. The reality of the tragedy of the horizon is that nobody cares of what's going on in 10 years, or very few. The traders is nervous about the next second. The CFO, I've been a CFO for many years, the next quarter. The CEO or the president for the next 3 to 5 years. The governor of a central bank, 5 to 10 years. And after that, God knows. So we have a problem with the horizon. Nobody is really in charge of mid to long term. We also have the famous tragedy of the commons, which has been very well documented in economics. Everybody benefits from taking care. Nobody wants to pay. It's as simple as that. And that's really where we have to address this up front. If not, we will just make a little cosmetic changes, mosquito bites around the system, but the system itself will basically drive us in the same crazy course. I will quote a common friend with Bruno, Colin Mayer, where this amazing formula where he says the social purpose of business is not to increase profits, as per Friedman. The social purpose of business should be to find profitable solution for the people and the planet. It doesn't say that profit is bad. Profit is okay, but it has to have a purpose. It's not a profit as a mean to an end, as an end in itself. So it's a profit as a mean to an end. That's, I think, extremely important. So, and I would argue even that profit is a social norm. When you ask your kids, what is profit? The kids will say, oh, Daddy, it's very easy. It's revenues minus cost. And they say, but how do you calculate your revenues? And how do you calculate your costs? I've been CFO of big banks between 2007 and 2013. I can tell you there are many ways to calculate your revenues, many ways to calculate your costs. So don't tell me that profit is cast in marble forever. We can really discuss what is profit. And the same profit in 2020 will not be calculated the same in 2014, was not the same with exactly the same figure in 1980. So we have to recognize these things, which means that we should not be too respectful with that. And we should be really ready to challenge this. I think we have first, this is the work in progress today, to recognize externalities. What are these externalities? How do you measure them? It's not that easy. Everybody knows about the CO2 emission. When you enter into biodiversity, gender gap, etc., it's more challenging. So we have to recognize these externalities, disclose in a homogeneous manner. Second, we have to put a price tag in this thing. That's going to be more challenging. And once you have a price valuation, do we incorporate this in our account, or does it stay outside? Is it extra financial, as they say, or is it really financial? This is basically the roadmap for the next 30, 50 years. It's not fun. It's not easy. It will take time. That's really where we are today. We have to discuss governance, accounting standards, valuation, fiduciary duties. That's what I'm calling moving from a mark-to-market system, which was a system put in place in the 1970s, to a mark-to-planet system. We have to change our anchor. ESG is nice. It's great to socialize the ideas that environmental and social and governance are great issues. But the reality is that you have so many frameworks that you choose the one you like. It creates a number of backfiring. It encourages, let me say, good behavior. But it's very disputed. The Economist a year ago put his cover page and said ESG, these 3 letters won't save the world. And now Republican attorney generals in the US are basically contesting the very idea of ESG. The real question, I'm coming to the end, I see Roberta becoming nervous. The real issue that we are facing today is that we sold to the world a transition in 2050. We say, it's going to be okay. You just reallocate 1% of your savings every year. You just decrease your CO2 emission 1% per year. Nobody is afraid of moving by 1%. But even that we didn't do. We realize that even 1% is a challenge. The reality today is that we are facing a transformation of our model. And the transformation is, of course, very difficult. It's very difficult because you have losers and winners. It's very difficult because you don't really know the way forward. And you might make mistakes. It's very difficult because you have tensions, and that's why you have tensions between NGOs who say you don't go fast enough, and again, the Republican Attorney General who say you go too fast. So it's crystallizing tension. Second, there is no master of the world. In 1970, when Friedman spoke, the world obeyed. Today, you have many voices. In the US, it will be decided in court. In Europe, it's a bureaucracy. In China, it's the Communist Party, and so on and so forth. So we have many risks. We have the risk of bureaucratizing purpose. I don't think purpose is a compliance exercise, but that's a possibility. We have the risk of fragmentation. We can have many strategies, many purpose, many regulations, which might not necessarily converge. And we can be still very much inward looking. And it's also more difficult at a time where the issue is not to leverage your business. Your issue is to manage your stressed balance sheet. So we really need to move towards building coalition. It's not going to be the UAE alone, France alone, or whoever alone. We need to work together. The market economy is like water. You can drive water in a direction, but you have to build walls. Market economy will go wherever you ask it to go. It's a good system. You have to put some regulation on the one end. You have to put pressure from all of us as investors, consumers, entrepreneurs, talent. And that's the way to go. But nobody can do this alone. We need to be exemplary. We need to be generous, in particular with the emerging and developing economies. And we need it, as has been said today, to be very innovative. It's not about more of the same. It's not about not invented here. It's about invented together. I finish with the 12 principles I'd like to leave to your thinking, the way I see how we can reform our system. First, we have to be both very modest and ambitious. We have to be ambitious because if we are serious about transforming, we need to transform, not just to make up. But we need to be modest. Transforming the accounting system, transforming the governance system will take 10, 15 years. It's not going to happen overnight. Usually French people are criticized for saying, oh, guys, you take the Bastille and you think you're done. And then you got Napoleon. No, I think it takes more time than this. Second, we have to be holistic or systemic. We just cannot have the salami slice approach. It would be too easy if the issue was just for all of us to have an electric vehicle. We all know it's more complex than that. We need to learn while keeping the benefits of market economy, in particular optimization. We need to optimize not at all costs. We need to optimize for the better. We need to increase resilience. We need, fourth principle, to work public and private hand in hand and not in opposition. We need to use technology. Again, we could spend hours on this. I think we must remind people that finance is at the service of the economy and economy at the service of people, not the other way around. I think it's obvious, but it needs to be reminded, which leads me to my seventh principle, which is about brotherhood. There is no planet B. We are all on the same boat, maybe not on the same deck, but we are all on the same boat and we are all human beings. We need eighth principle to connect valuation and values. I strongly believe that in this century, integrity will be a key compass for everybody. And let me share a small anecdote with you. In 2008, I organized a conversation with Paul Volcker. I'm coming to the end, Robert. With Paul Volcker, he was asking, the former president of the Federal Reserve, he was asked by the room, Mr. Volcker, you are very rude with finance people. Why do you criticize us? We are just abiding by the rules again. And Volcker told them, not in 2008, not in 1945, I accept the Nuremberg excuse. You in the finance world, you are the best diplomats. You make the most money in the world. Don't pretend you don't know what you're doing. You have a particular responsibility. We have ninth principle to resist building walls. We have to work hand in hand, north and south, east and west. We have to work to focus on doing better, not that more, which means thinking about the GDP measurement, which means thinking about the accounting standards. We must remember that sustainable development, as I say, is to leave the toilets the way you found them. It means you make your own choice and you don't prevent the next generation to make its own choice. It's very simple. The problem, to speak finance, is today we have increased the social liabilities, we have increased the financial liabilities, we have increased the environmental liabilities. I think it's time to work on the asset side for our kids. And last but not least, and it's the most difficult, as Tolstoy said in War and Peace, everybody wants to change the world, nobody wants to change himself. And that's the biggest challenge we have to address. Thank you, and sorry for my being too long.